Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you are, to the International Day of Women in Mining in Africa. It's so incredible to have you guys join us. My name is Khofani Mudise. If you can't pronounce that, then you could just call me Beyonce. I kid, but you could just call me Khofa. Today's a really special day as we're celebrating all women in mining. And so, why is this theme so important? Well, the theme is promoting the voice of impact, advancing gender equity and entrepreneurship in mining. And this is a conversation that I'm pretty sure many of you have had or have heard over the years, but it's really important to understand that over the years, over decades rather, women have been immensely underrepresented in the mining sector. Yet the mining sector is one of the most influential sectors in various economies. Coming from Botswana myself, and which is a country that is immensely engraved in the diamond mining sector, I can tell you now that the mining sector is an extremely important facet of our economy. And so when we talk about gender equity in mining, it's not just a moral imperative, it is a proven business advantage. And so today's discussions are going to be extremely impactful. We can't wait to hear your views. We're going to make sure that the session is as interactive as possible. We have an incredibly talented, skilled, and gifted panels that will be joining us. And so I'm really excited for you and for myself as we learn what today's sessions is about. And so a few housekeeping rules. First and foremost, please do make sure that you keep your camera off if you have some network issues, but if you can keep it on, we'd love to see you and celebrate you. And also please do ensure that you mute your phones. We don't want any interruptions. I want to enjoy a full, smooth flow of today's event. And also, please ensure that you stay muted on Zoom. We don't want to hear anything that's happening in the background. We'd like to make sure that the only person we're hearing is our speaker, even though we do have our technical team ensuring that everyone stays muted and the only person we can hear is our speaker. But you're also welcome to kind of react, laugh at my jokes that you think I'm funny. So it'd be great to have that kind of encouragement. And also, I can't be telling you where your restrooms are. You are probably in your house or your office or cafe, wherever you are. So you're good. I'm pretty sure you're good in that sense. And so we will have some exciting things happening in between our sessions, being the interactive part of our session. So we'll have a poll going on with a Q&A. So please do participate. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to get your engagement. And lastly, we'd like to acknowledge our incredible sponsors. We'd like to thank Wakefield Lodges and Base Titanium. So if you can go to your reactions over there and just give them a round of applause. I see my reaction. I think I'm going to give them a round of applause. So thanks. Oh, what a technical team we have, right? And so we're going to get started with a poll question, right? We're going to have a poll question popping up right now. And we're going to have 4 questions for you. And we'd love for you to answer honestly and let us know what your thoughts are. So our first poll question is, what's the best way to bring more women into mining? Is it setting rules for women in leadership? So that speaks on policies and so on. Is it giving contracts to women-owned businesses? Is it making mining laws fair for women? Or is it working together across Africa on women's rights in mining? I know you want to answer all of them and tick all of them because I think they're all correct, but give the one answer that you think is more practical, and we can start implementing as soon as possible. So then you click on submit after choosing your answer, and we'll move right along to our next question. Interesting. So a majority of us, 50% of us, believe that working together across Africa on women's rights in mining is the way to go, followed by giving contracts to women-owned businesses. And I do have a question to pose to you as the audience, that if we do give contracts to women-owned businesses, then where does merit come into play there? So it's an interesting view. And then followed by making mining laws fair for women. Are we saying that currently our laws are not fair for women, are not accommodating women? Then lastly, setting rules for women in leadership. And how would that look like? To ensure that we carry on this conversation, we'd love to hear more comments. We do have a social media page, so do follow us there. I think we have a second question coming up as well, and I'm really curious what your views are. So we have, what's the biggest challenge for women starting a mining business? Is it getting money or loans? Is it finding customers and markets? Is it learning the skills needed? Or is it fighting culture bias? So those are quite interesting, quite interesting. And while I'm waiting for your answers, just make sure you click submit and then we'll get our answers there. But while I'm waiting for your answers, I actually met an incredible lady who got into mining in Tanzania. And she was all the way in these crazy mines, and she was the only woman there. And I think it was quite dangerous for her to do so, considering she was the only lady there. But she learned that there are skills needed, and there was already a cultural bias as she was the only female there. And it was a very somewhat primitive mine, and so they weren't using any heavy machinery. They were still using hammers and so on. So there was a lot going on that end. So yeah, fighting cultural bias seems to be the main challenge for women starting a mining business, followed by getting money or loans. I think that one, to be honest with you, is across all for women and men. And finding customers and markets, I think that's also another very valid reason, not just for women, unfortunately, but for all those who are in mining. Let's go on to the next question. We have two more to go, and then we'll go on to our next speaker. What will help women most to get mining jobs? Is it scholarships for women in science and mining? Is it hands-on training in mining areas? Is it mentors to guide women, or company university partnerships? I think these questions are getting a bit more difficult because I think all of them are correct. But yeah, single choice for you all. I'm very curious what your views are. Select one, what you think is the most important that will help women get mining jobs, and click on submit. And we'll get your views right after. And I'm seeing that more people are trickling into our our Zoom session, which is fantastic. We have 33 participants, so welcome to you all. If you're just getting sorted, we're doing a poll, and you click on the most correct answer in your view and you click submit. Interesting. Mentors to guide women. Are we talking about male mentors, female mentors, or it doesn't matter? Followed by company university partnership, hands-on training, and scholarships for women in science and mining. Very interesting. And the last question that we have, I know you're probably tired of hearing my voice. So the last question we have is, how can we get more women in mining leadership? Is it companies set diversity targets? I know that we do love diversity, inclusion, and equity, DEI. And we have government requires women in boardroom, or should we have train women for senior roles? Or we have community groups push for women leaders. So what do we think can get more women in mining leadership? Click on the one you think is the most important, or the one that you think is the most effective, and thereafter head on submit, and we'll find out what the majority thinks. And don't worry, no one can see your responses. So there's no correct or wrong answer here. We're just trying to get the best out of everything. And I see in the comments, some of you guys have already started introducing yourselves, which is fantastic. So a majority of us saying that train women for senior roles, very brilliant. Followed by companies setting diversity targets and government requiring women in boardrooms and community groups pushing for women leaders. I think you guys have all done a fantastic job answering your questions, and I think there's a lot of dialogue to be had thereafter. Like I said, I'm pretty sure you're tired of me listening to my voice. We're going to have someone that I think is a voice of leadership and resilience and advocacy when it comes to women in mining, and that's Kudzai Mtombeni. Let's welcome her as she gives us our welcome remarks. Remember, react with a little clapping emoji so we can stay interactive.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone joining us from across Africa and the globe at large. On behalf of the entire IDWIM Africa organizing team, I warmly welcome you to the 2025 International Day of Women in Mining. an African celebration of the remarkable achievements that continue to drive gender diversity, inclusion, and transformation across the mining sector. A space where voices rise, stories resonate, and impact is forged through collective action. Launched in 2022, the International Day of Women in Mining has now grown into a global movement. In recent months, IWIM has passed the torch to passionate team members of Continental Volunteers. We have embraced this initiative, and as a result, today, the African volunteers have created the impactful program we are about to experience today. This year's theme, Voices of Impact, Advancing Gender Equity and Entrepreneurship in Mining, invites us to listen deeply, to speak boldly, and act decisively. It reminds us that equity is not a distant ideal, it is a daily pursuit. And entrepreneurship is not just about innovation, it is about ownership, it is about agency, and the rewriting of the rules of engagement in mining. So whether you're dialing in from a remote mining site or a corporate boardroom or from your living room, we appreciate your being here. Today, we are over 30 strong, representing many countries, cultures, and lived experiences, but united by one theme, that of promoting the voice of impact from the lens of advancing gender, equity, and entrepreneurship in mining. So, to our phenomenal speakers, thank you so much for bringing your wisdom, your courage, and your lived experience to this platform. You are not just participants, you are architects of change. To our male allies, your presence here signals a powerful truth that gender equity is not a women's issue, but a shared responsibility. Your support strengthens the foundation of inclusive progress. To every attendee on the call today, so whether you are a policy advocate or a technical expert or a community leader or a rising entrepreneur for that matter, this space belongs to you. Together, we will amplify voices, challenge systems, and unlock new possibilities for African women in mining. To my colleagues, the IDWIM Africa Event Organizing Committee, thank you for your tireless dedication and strategic vision. Your behind the scene work is shaped not just an event, but a powerful movement for equity and impact. Thank you, ladies. To IWIM, the organization itself, a heartfelt thank you for your visionary leadership, unwavering support, and the trust you have placed in the IDWIM Africa Committee to steward today's event. Your legacy of advancing equity in mining continues to inspire and guide us all. Let this gathering be a spark. Let it be a shift. Let it be a celebration of impacts in motion. Welcome to IDWIM Africa 2025, where equity meets enterprise and every voice matters. Welcome and thank you for being part of this powerful moment. Thanks.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Kudzai. And I cannot emphasize it even more when we talk about entrepreneurship, because especially within the mining sector, because entrepreneurship is the heartbeat of the value chain, and gender equity is the catalyst for inclusive growth when it comes to mining as well. And so we're seeing the beautiful comment and the beautiful chat that we have here. We have people from Guinea, South Africa, Australia, Lagos, Nigeria. Please do keep, and we see Canada as well. I'm from Botswana. So it's such a global event. So indeed, it is a situation, it is International Day of Women in Mining, and we absolutely love that. And so we're going to continue, and to inspire our conversation today, we'll have a voice of leadership and in the mining sector, and that is Rano Kosimova. We'll have a video from him, and let's listen and enjoy.
Dear friends and colleagues, Warm greetings from Uzbekistan. I'm truly happy to be with you today and to take part in this important conversation on promoting the voice of impact, advancing gender equity and entrepreneurship in mining, a topic that resonates deeply with the work we do in our region. It's a true honor to speak to you not only as a representative of my country or a company, but also as an ambassador of the Women in Mining movement. Together, we are united by a powerful goal to elevate women's voices, advance gender equity, and expect our collective impact across the global mining sector. In mining, success has traditionally been measured in tons and profits, but today we understand that true impact measured not only in results, but in people, in whose voices are heard, whose ideas inspire progress, and who is given the opportunity to lead, grow, and thrive. Around the world and across Central Asia, we are witnessing a new generation of women stepping into leadership as engineers, innovators, entrepreneurs, and change makers. Their courage is redefining what is possible in this industry. Their presence is reshaping long-held narratives, and their vision is creating new models of value, more sustainable, more inclusive, more human. And speaking of today's important topic, I would like also to share a few reflections from Uzbekistan. Private entrepreneurship now makes up nearly 50% of our GDP, and women are becoming a major force in this sphere. Today, 37% of all entrepreneurs in the country are women. Over 200,000 women have launched businesses in recent years, from small enterprises to agricultural ventures and industrial services. Nearly half of the country's economic and industrial workforce is now made up of women. This is not just growth, it is a progress, because when women lead in business, in mining, in society, they don't just build companies, they build confidence, communities, and lasting impact. Their success empowers others to believe, to begin, and to belong. And here is something I deeply believe. There are no borders when it comes to the idea of advancing women in metallurgy. Whether you are in Africa or Central Asia, Latin America or Europe, we are all part of one shared planet, one evolving industry, and one global movement for change. We may speak different languages, we can belong to different cultures, but we share the same dream to make mining more inclusive, more just, and more future-ready. And today, as an IDWIM ambassador, I see my mission as building bridges between generation and across geographies, between women who are just finding their voices and those who are already helping others rise. I believe the strongest changes happen when we work together, lifting each other as we go. To all the women listening today, I would like to say your voices matters, your impact matters. Keep speaking, keep creating, and keep moving forward, even if the road ahead hasn't been walked before. Because the future is not just something we inherit, it is something we build and build together. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of today's discussion. I wish you all a meaningful and inspiring event.
That was such an incredible speech from Rano. And if you know anything about Rano, look her up. She has led a number of large-scale transformational initiatives. And so her saying this is not coming out of a random box. She means it because she sees it as well. And I'm seeing it as well, seeing the number of people that have joined in. Already we have 40 participants. Thank you all so much. If you're just joining in, welcome. We've had a nice little interactive session with our polls. We had a speech from Rano, beautiful welcome remark from Kudzai. And we're going to continue our conversation with a keynote address from Zenzi and Awasis, president of IDWIM, and she'll be speaking on the voices of impact, advancing gender equity and entrepreneurship in mining. She is a Namibian geologist with over 20 years of experience and the founder of Women in Mining Association of Namibia and president of IDWIM. And she's been recognized globally, including Mining Global magazine and Namibia's most excellent order of the Eagle. That is incredible. Over to you, Zinzi.
Good afternoon. Hi. Okay. You said I must call you Beyonce if I can't pronounce your name, so I'll call you Beyonce. Thank you for that incredible introduction. Yes, like our host said, my name is Zenzi Avasis. I'm a geologist by training, but I'd like to call myself a strategist by passion and an unapologetic believer in women's power to transform Africa's mining sector. I'm also the founder and lead consultant for Empower Mine Consulting Services, where mining meets sustainability, inclusion, and results. So over the past 2 decades, I've worked across geology, mineral resource management, and business strategy, helping companies, governments, and communities build operations that are profitable, sustainable, and socially impactful. And as it was introduced, I have the privilege of serving as the president of the Women in Mining Association of Namibia and as the sitting president of the Association of Women in Mining in Africa, the continent's leading voice for women in the extractive industries. So today, I have titled, under the theme, today's theme, I've titled my presentation, Unearthing Potential, Women's Vital Role in African Mining. And with that, I'm hoping for us to go beyond statistics and slogans. I want us to really dig into the why and the how, why women are central to mining's future, and how unlocking their potential can drive innovation, strengthen communities, and reshape Africa's mining industry. Next slide, please. But I will fail in my duty as IDWIM's president if I don't tell you who we are. IDWIM is a network of National Association of African Women in the Extractive Sector. Mining, so that's basically mining and oil and gas and energy. Currently, we only focusing on mining and energy at the moment. Oil and gas will join us soon. And our main objective is to speak for and advance women's participation and economic empowerment in the extractive sector at the continental and global levels. On the picture on the left, I'm giving a pictorial sort of image of our purpose. Next slide, please. Why we exist? Ooh. The African mining vision. I'm sure most of you on this call, or some of you at least, would have heard about the African mining vision. But it's a very bold and audacious vision under the AU that calls for a transparent, equitable, and optimal exploitation of mineral sustainability, sustainable growth, and socio-economic development. Now, the AMDC, which basically is the vehicle that's been started to implement this vision, coordinates the AMV, and they aim to transform how minerals contribute to the continent's development. Very quickly, they realized that they cannot go ahead with that without including women. And so one of the first meetings they had in 2015, August 2015, 19th of August 2015, okay, that's next week, in Nairobi, Kenya, we convened, and IDWIM was then founded there. Next slide, please. So since August 2015, IDWIM has united about 42 national women organizations across the 5 regions of Africa. On the map on the left-hand side, we have highlighted the countries where we've got our members are coming from. Majority come from West Africa, followed by Southern Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, and currently we have one country in North Africa, that's Morocco. Collectively, we represent over 100 individual African women in mining. Next slide, please. Now, the African mining industry, in most of the countries, it is the cornerstone of economic development, contributing significantly to the country's GDP, employment, and infrastructure. And traditionally, this has been a male-dominated sector, and but a very quiet revolution has been coming along. The slide I'm showing you currently is from Namibia, but I can guarantee you that what you're about to see. And I know I said we shouldn't look at statistics only, but this is for me, it gives an idea as to why we are doing this. So this slide, in 2010, I'm comparing the representation of women in mining in Namibia, from 2010 to the next slide, please. To 2024. So you see an increase of about 14%. So currently, there are about 30% women, and this is just employed women in the mining industry. And I'm saying this, it's quite important to highlight this because when we talk about women in mining, we have to understand that there are various types of women in mining. And while there are not enough data available, the one sort of segment of the industry that really gives us information is the large scale mining sector, and that's where the professional women are mostly involved in. And there in Namibia, it shows a 14% increase over a 10-year slice. Next slide, please. So and this, what I'm about to show you now is basically when we talk about women in mining, we've grouped them in various categories. And it's quite important to know that we've got the woman as who is a professional in mining. Those are the ones who are geologists and engineers, to metallurgists, those who work in large scale mining sectors, excelling in highly technical and demanding roles. What we are noticing is that their analytical prowess and attention to detail and collaborative spirit are proving invaluable in optimizing operations and driving innovation. So we see more and more women leading complex projects and contributing to strategic decision making. And I must pause here for a second because this is the sector I come from. A couple of years ago, not so long ago, it was actually illegal to be a technical woman in mining. And when I say illegal, there was actually a law passed by the ILO that didn't allow for women to be in technical roles in the mining sector. So although women were always in the mining sector, you didn't see much of them on site, on mines, that is. And the reason was, I think it was if I think about it, it really was to protect us, sort of, because it was seen as a very labor intense, a very hectic sector for women to be in. And from 1995 onwards, in Southern Africa anyway, that started changing around. So you started seeing more and more women coming in. The next group of women are the women entrepreneurs in mining now. These are women who go beyond direct employment. They forge new paths in entrepreneurship. These are the women who supply services to the mining industry through procurement. You see some of them in catering services, even through providing equipment to the mining industry. And then you now also have consultants. They fall under this industry, under the segment of women. Then you find the women in artisanal small scale mining. These are often overlooked. This group is often overlooked. They constitute a significant portion of the artisanal and small-scale mining workforce in Africa. Now, their roles, though sometimes informal, are crucial for family livelihoods and local economies, empowering these women through formalization, training, and access to fair markets is vital for improving safety, sustainability, and economic upliftment. There are two other groups. That's the upcoming woman mining, or what we call the rising star. That's the student, the one who's aspiring to come into the mining sector. And then, of course, you've got the woman in community. That's the woman who has accompanied her family to to a mining town. All of those women have individual needs, and that's why. But the good thing is that they're all changing and they're all becoming meaningful participants of the industry. Right throughout all of them, you've got the youth, the rising star. And with the youth, we also look at both genders, both male and female. Next slide, please. But as much as these women and as much as we're seeing some radical changes in the sector, there are some challenges. And this slide here is one of my favorite ones to demonstrate visually what these challenges look like. Now, this is called the leaky pipeline phenomena. In the beginning stage of your career, or with all these calls that we're making for representation, we see a lot of women in the beginning, like, at the entry level. But as you go up the pipeline, we start losing them. And there are various reasons for that, and I'll touch on that just now. But at the end of the day, what this slide demonstrates is that there are very few women in leadership. And many times I get asked, but why do you want to be in leadership? Why are you not happy that there are more women in the beginning stages? And the reason simply is that in leadership positions, that's where decisions are being made. So we want to be there and help influence the change. Beyonce, you must tell me about my time, okay? I know I can go on forever.
Sure.
Um, Next slide, please. So, how do we address these challenges, or rather, why do these challenges exist, and how do we address them? You can just click through them, please. Is it Mike or Matt, whichever one? Yeah, one of the very big barriers, I want to call them, is unconscious bias coupled with cultural and social barriers. So one of the questions was, what are the things we need to address? And for me, we cannot talk about challenges in women in mining if we don't touch on unconscious bias. And that is basically saying, it's great to have you here, but you don't belong here. That you encounter, whether you are in the global north or whether you are in global south, whether you're in a very sophisticated mining platform or whether you are down in the grassroots, that unconscious bias you will always find. And that basically is one of the reasons why we lose a lot of women to the sector. Safety and security, women, especially in ASM, we are susceptible to a lot of violence and harassment. And I know I used to be, somebody was talking about being the only female in the field. I was the only female on the exploration camp. And sometimes, as brave as that sounds, you had to basically, and I hate to say this actually quite out loud, but one of the things that they always tell you is like, oh, you must have a thick skin. And I like my skin soft, but if you don't harden yourself a little bit, you will not make it, so that in these areas. Safety and security is some of the things that young women says that scares them from entering this industry. Work-life balance, as well as access to resources. It's all on the slide, so you can read that through. Next slide, please. So how do we then address it? And I think in the poll that we passed earlier in the beginning, we touched on some of these solutions, I want to call them, but. Give me a second, please. Yeah. So how do we chart our way forward is basically looking at policy. I still think and we can't do it all at once. One group is looking at policy and advocacies, but basically advocating for gender responsive policies and legislations that promote equal opportunities. Especially for where we want to make a difference. That is one clear way of making a difference. Partnership and collaboration, fostering strong collaborations among governments, industry, civil society, and international organizations to share best practices, pool resources, and implement integrated solutions. Investments and finance. Look, finance will always be a challenge. We touched on earlier and say that this is not just a woman only thing, but the truth of the matter is that it is even a little bit more harder as a woman in mining if you don't have financing. So facilitating access to affordable finance, grants, and investment opportunities. Alongside promoting a gender lens and investing in the sector, we're doing a study on that currently, and the results are amazing, which we'll talk about at a much, much later point. Capacity building is still key. We have to develop training programs that are tailored to women. Business management and safety for women in mining, alongside with mentorship. In Namibia, we just launched a mentorship and coaching program. We found that mentorship alone. Oh, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Mentorship alone doesn't work. You have to do coaching with it as well. Next slide, please. I think it's my second last slide. Yes, it is my last slide actually. So, what is today I'm asking you that we cannot do all of these things if we depend on one person only. We need to do this together. Championing for women's full participation leadership can unlock very great potential, drive sustainable development, and build a truly resilient industry. But we have to do it together, both us as women as well as our allies. But we have to do it together. That's it. Last slide. I think that's my thank you slide. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senzi. I love at the end of your slide, it has all the thank yous in various languages. And I think it's just so interesting that you mentioned how it was somewhat illegal for women to have technical roles in the mining space. And that is I mean, when we talk about equity, we're talking about things like this. And as we've seen the transformation in the global landscape and how much has transformed, it's incredible how far we've come, but yet we have a long way to go. Yet with organizations such as yours, we're seeing that we are on the right progressive route. And so we're moving on to Rosalind Mawofemua Fiagbe. I hope I got it right. I really practiced. I'm not sure if I got it right or not, but she's a policy analyst at ACEP, and she'll be speaking about women entrepreneurs in the mining sector. And she's bringing expertise in natural resources and governance, energy policy, etc. So over to you, Rosalind.
Thank you very much. Greetings from the Africa Center for Energy Policy in Ghana. ACEP is a policy think tank that promotes resource governance in Africa through research and evidence-based advocacy, focusing on oil and gas, mining, energy, climate change, and fiscal policy. My name is Rosalind Mawofemua-Fiagbe, a policy analyst with the center, and I will be speaking on women entrepreneurs in the mining sector, empowerment and innovation, focusing on artisanal and small-scale mining. Next slide. Next. Okay, so I'll look at the introduction, some puzzles of women's participation, some key challenges, innovation in action, innovation by women, and some, of course, recommendations and conclusion. Next. So this conversation is more than an industry one. It's a gender justice issue, an economic development priority, and a call for inclusive innovation. ASM provides livelihoods for over 40 million people globally, with women being 30% in Africa. And this number can rise to 50% in some of the regions. ASM women are involved in digging, in processing, in supply of mining equipment. But here is the puzzle. Next slide. So despite their critical roles, they don't have control over mining licenses. They are not able to access financing. And they are not also able to go through any capacity building. Next slide. And some of these key challenges that hold them back is the fact that when accessing the mining licenses, it's very complex. You have to go through a lot of processes. They are also not able to access capital. They can't go for loans. It's difficult to apply and even get the loans. There are no tailored financial products for them to access. The working environment is equally not conducive for them. They have poor PPEs, they are exposed to mercury effects, and they lack access to breastfeeding facilities when they give birth or when they become new moms. When you go to the mining communities, it's very difficult to find women in decision-making rooms. Where there is a mining mineral development committee, you see only one woman representing. Where you are seeing 4 or 5 men, they are excluded. They don't have access to technologies, and some of the trainings too, they are not privileged to go through it. There is a gender disaggregated data. So it's very difficult to get the right information and to make the right decisions concerning women in ASM. National policies are limited, so there is no gender mainstreaming. It's difficult because we don't do research to know the number of women that are lacking those opportunities or breakthroughs. Next slide. So empowerment in action. How do we get these women to be active in their ASM skills or entrepreneurship? We have to build their capacity. We have to build their business. We have to be interested in their businesses, their safety issues. We have to be very interested and give them sustainable trainings, not once in a while training. Constantly, we have to train them. And networks like the Women in Mining, we have to encourage them, expose them to these networks to build their leadership roles, so that when they are in those rooms, they get the opportunity to be in those big rooms, they can be able to contribute effectively to the topics and the issues. Their roles have to be formalized because most of the time they are not visible. Everything they do, most of the things they do, they are informal and they are undervalued. Next slide. So currently there are platforms, mobile platforms, that we can actually expose these ASM women to. And there are mercury-free techniques that we can train them to have access to go through it so that they can use it themselves. And we have to expose them to business models, encourage them to build up cooperatives. These cooperatives comes in different forms. And so they could share their ownership and bargain for any skills that they need. So last week, Ghana was about to launch a new product That's Responsible Cooperative Mining and Skills Development Program. When the tragedy happened, which was last week, I'm sure most of us heard about that tragedy. They were going there to the mining community to launch this particular program. Next slide. So I have these few cases for us to pick some of the vital things from. It's always good when we do the comparison analysis with other countries, so that what is working for the other country, we also try to adopt some of them. And so in Tanzania, this cooperative, their focus is on clean technologies, and then they organize funds to execute some of the community projects, be it education and health. In Ghana, we have the Adan Salt entrepreneurs. And when you go to the mining communities in the Western regions, especially, we have some of those cooperatives. Theirs is to always be engaging them and be taking them through the best of what to do. And we have mobile apps that track their production and manage their cooperatives. It's not all of them that have the skills to manage these finances. So it's very good if we come on board together to support them in one way or the other. Next slide. So I have these few recommendations and conclusion. So we have to be intentional when it comes to the formalization of women's roles. We have to support them to get their licenses and make it very simple and easy for them. When there are legal reforms, then policies can work effectively. But where policies are just hanging without any backing, it's difficult for the policies to actually work and even work to the ground level for these ASM women to benefit from. We have to give them inclusive financing, encourage them to access funds from microcredit, and even the microcredit, some are difficult to give out loans to these women. So we have the knowledge, we have the capacity, and so we have to be engaging these microcredit facilities to release the loans, to give them grants so that they can build up their entrepreneurships. We have to also help them to invest in their skills, to scale up affordable tools that they might be needing in their work. We have to be there to support them all the time. We have to be advocating. We have to be there for each other as women, to advocate wherever you find yourself in any room. You advocate for that woman out there to be part of decision making, to be part of policy making, so that the policy doesn't benefit only some aspect of the individuals or the citizens. It benefits everybody equally. And then we have to get the right data, which will help us to inform the kind of interventions and the policies to give to these women to benefit them. Next slide. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Rosen. I think that was a brilliant and very informative presentation. I think something that's always concerned me, especially when it comes to small-scale mining miners that are women, is protection. When we speak about advocacy, I do wonder, do we look into whether these women are protected when they go into these spaces, into these mines that are filled with men? And it's something that's always concerned me. And when you look at the especially I think you mentioned earlier Tanzania, when you look at these women that are there, and I had visited fortunately, and I was just shocked to see women in those conditions, let alone human beings in general in those conditions. And so I think another recommendation would definitely be ensuring that women are in spaces in which they are protected and are in safe conditions, not just against the mining environment, but people that may cause harm. And when you look into, and I'd love to hear a discussion on the comment section with groups that are, I don't know what you call them in your communities or in your countries, but you know, those groups of people, those bandits that get into mining and steal minerals and then sell them in the black market. There's such a hazard to miners that mine illegally. So you can imagine what that's like for small scale women miners. So it's a really interesting presentation, Rosalind, and you've given us quite a lot to think about. And so we have another session with an incredible speaker called Virginia Tabeka. She's the head of people and organization at Valterra Platinum. And she'll be speaking on fostering a culture of courageous women to break the glass ceiling in the mining sector. She is an HR and executive with over 15 years in mining and manufacturing, and known for driving organizational transformation and forming an inclusive culture. Virginia, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. What an introduction, Hofa One. I'm not going to call you Beyonce. You've got a very beautiful name, so I'm going to stay with your name. So thank you very much, and good afternoon, colleagues. Good morning, good evening, good everything. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. My name is Virginia Tabeka. Yes, as Hofaona indicated, I represent women at Valterra Platinum, and I really feel very honored to speak about courage, to speak about the glass ceiling in the mining industry, and to just share how some women are shattering this glass ceiling. And so I'm looking forward to our discussion in a Q&A later on. And I hope that my talk will really liberate you and liberate all of us, and encourage you to look at women in mining from a very different light, because we have been working in this industry, making progress, despite the challenges that are there. If you can go on to the next slide, I just want to share a little bit about Valterra Platinum. Some of you may know, before we were Amplats, Anglo American Platinum, that was the most recent name. We were part of Anglo American, and we demerged from Anglo American 3 months ago. And so we are now an independent company, following that demerger. So to do that, for a business our size, we had to do quite a bit of work to reposition our company. So we went to the bottom, setting ourselves up, changing our name to Valterra. And you'd wonder what Valterra means. Val stands for value, and terra stands for earth in Latin. So as you can see, our purpose is to unearth value to better our world. And so, our name and our purpose really intertwined. We were listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange as Amplats before, and we remain listed, in our new name as Valterra. So don't be shy, buy the stock, as the PGM stock. And we later on in June listed on the London Stock Exchange. So we are on 2 stock exchanges. We launched our values just last week, so that are on screen there, and I'm really very proud of where we are in a very short space of time to get to a point where we really got to this point with our values very clear, that our employees resonate very well with them, and they have been participant in crafting these values and ensuring that they mean something to them. So, really very proud of that. If you move on to the next slide, and just to give you also where we operate, we have mining operations in South Africa, 3 big mines, and then we have our Unki operation where Kutai is, in Zimbabwe. And then a joint venture mining operation in Limpopo, Mudikwa. And then we have our concentrators, our smelting operations, our refineries, and our marketing office, or our marketing businesses in the UK, Singapore, and China, and we are headquartered here in Johannesburg. So we hire 42,000 people, more or less, employees and contractors. And as you can see, overall women from the lowest level to the executive level, we 23%, and women in senior roles, 30%. And I'll speak a little bit later about that. So we are here today to honor the resilience of women. For us in South Africa, as the South Africans who are on this platform now know, we celebrate August, and it's a very, very special month to reflect about progress that we have made, and to reflect about the work we still need to do. And for me, in the mining sector, I really feel that we have some work to do, but hey, we have progressed quite a lot. So the women in 1956 really paved the path for us, and as we speak about what they have done, we need to speak about more the path they have created, and the call for us to continue to be brave and bold and resilient in changing our sector to be much more inclusive. So we do enjoy, the benefits that they have created for us. And we can see also in the country that women do participate in many sectors, in the education sector, in the health, in mining, particularly, we do see changes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here speaking to you, and we wouldn't be here together speaking to one another. So we have to be kind to ourselves and celebrate it, but also acknowledge that we need to keep going, and we need to be relentless about bringing change in our industry. So, and the Mineral Council recently in South Africa shared some numbers, and they said that they make a 1% over the years. The South African mining sector has seen a 1% increase, in terms of representation of women in the sector. And I want to talk a little bit about where we are as a company. If you can go into the next slide. So in Valterra Platinum, we have really, I mean, we also a member in the Mineral Council, and we have, you can show the entire slide. I mean, it just shows just where we are as a company. So we participate in the Mineral Council, and we ensure that we keep abreast and understand how we are progressing as a Mineral Council, but also as Valterra Platinum, as a PGM mining house, how we are forging through, ensuring that we have women represented. So with our change, we had to reconstitute our board to ensure that it has got the right skill, but also it has got the right people in it. And I'm really very pleased that at this point in time, in a new company, we have 30% of women who forms part of our board. As executives, at an executive level, there's 8 of us, and we have, achieved the 38%. And this also came, as a result of this change. And we were quite mindful in looking at our business and looking at ensuring that we have the leadership that's diverse, but also the leadership that has got that capability to lead this new company into the future. I say new in the context of Valterra, but I mean, we've been operating in South Africa for many, many, many years as, previously as Anglo American Platinum, but now as Valterra. And our senior management level is at 30%, and middle to frontline management at 32%. So over the years, I can say that as a sector, there has been opportunities that have been opened for women. But I must be quick to say, when you see these numbers, you will see these numbers representing a lot in the, I would say, the support functions of the business. When you move into the technical side of the business, the numbers go down. Even in our world, the technical areas, we still need to do a lot more work to bring better representation. So even if we are making great progress in the support functions, HR, corporate affairs, finance, those functions. It's great, and we like it. But it will be more great if we see a lot more technical managers, a lot more engineers, a lot more mining executives, who are female, and that's what we are looking at. I was talking to our executives, last week, speaking about almost the same thing, and some of them, and just sharing deeply where Valterra Platinum is and what the actual representation is, and in our technical areas. And all of them were telling me that they felt quite challenged. And that's what we need to do for those of us who are in positions of influence, to continue to just shatter these glass ceiling, right? To make sure that our industry is transformed. So So our challenge in the technical disciplines remains. So for me, I find that women in technical disciplines invest a lot of years going to universities, doing very difficult degrees, and then they go into the operations and they go into a mine, and after a few years, they look for a job, they branch into a different field, or they move into the banking sector. So whilst we acknowledge that it's not always easy for them to be integrated into the technical side of the business, I think that it is women who are going to change that picture. With that representation. As a country, we still are challenged, with the shortage of women in the science, technology, and engineering and maths. And this puts a lot more pressure in creating the right pipeline for women in those areas. But with all this investment that companies are putting into the graduate programs, the bursary scheme, and you don't see a lot more progress at the senior level in the technical areas, because that's where the core of mining is. And that's where we want to really see the progress. You can go into the next slide. So I have spoken about this, but just sharing where we are and just showing you, in our world, the reality about representation of women in the technical disciplines. I mean, you can see that in the mining side, at senior level, we have 15% representation. Clearly, as Valterra Platinum, it's something that we are very mindful of and we want to change. The processing, the metallurgist, there's good pipeline there, and we are making good progress. We have a woman GM, but in the engineering side, there's work to be done. I'm sharing these numbers within Valterra because I know that for some companies, it may be a different picture. But I'm sharing my reality within the Valterra Platinum with an understanding that, it shows as a business, we need to bring better change. We need to bring much more progress. If you look at the non-technical side, it's good. Some of their functions, finance is run, 50% of that function is run or led by women, and you'll see later on, as I share about the other women. So for me, women are the only people who will change the face of mining to become more accommodating for themselves and for the women who will come in future. We need to create the path that has been created for us today to be where we are. So so we need to go and encourage young women, develop more women in the technical parts of the business, and I think we have an advantage. And I'm not saying this because men are different, but I just feel that as women, we are wired very differently in terms of how we lead. We engage people very differently. We have the charisma to be able to lead people, but we are not tapping into some of the ingrained gifts that we already have, that we don't have to do much about. And it is just, how do we support our senior leaders, women, to take up these opportunities? I don't believe that they are not there, women. I believe they are there. And, post, being part of Anglo-American, and, if you looked at Anglo-American as a whole, you would see, Anglo, all the business units in there. But seeing this for us on our own shows that more work needs to be done. So we do not want to see a lot of women with technical degrees moving into the support functions. Yes, it is easier to work in the city, but the mines are not in the cities. The mines are in the sticks, and for the transformation of the mines, the GMs running the mines being women, we going to have to create the environment for women to be able to be there, at the operations. We've done quite a bit, if you can go into the next slide, to really look at practically what are those things that we need to continue to do. If you look at our pipeline on the middle management level, it's good. But the higher up you go, that's where work is needed. But these are just some of the strategies that we are implementing at Valterra Platinum to create, to create the pipeline and to build the pipeline. I don't need to go into details on them, but suffice to say that I'm sure majority of companies are doing all these things. But what I want to talk about is creating the environment for women to thrive. And in your question, Hofa One, you asked one of the questions as to, what do companies, what do we need to do to accelerate women? And creating that environment is quite important. So that part at the bottom is also quite dear to Valterra Platinum in terms of how do we ensure that we empower everyone and women to operate in our mines, and to ensure that we create the right environment for them to flourish. Ensuring that all the things that are actually, for me, hygiene factors are not in the way for women, but also our policies are much more inclusive, our infrastructures also much more inclusive to bring and integrate women into our operations. If you can go to the next slide, which is more, sharing what we have done to date around creating that enabling environment, what we have done intentionally to eliminate, GBV in our operations, developing a very clear strategy around that. And you can see that in all of the areas, we have really progressed quite well within our business. We have no tolerance for gender-based violence, for bullying, and we are very decisive around that. But we need to continue to ensure that we improve that environment. The one area we need to still work on is some of our colleagues who are in the business who could be perpetrators. How do we work around that? Quite an interesting thing that we are, grappling with at the moment. So I don't mean to go into the details about the strategy. If you go into the next slide. So these are some of our trailblazers at a board level that I was talking about, earlier on, and the ladies who are in our executive committee. And I would really like to see this picture, with the technical side of our business. I've got two colleagues there who are male, mining executive and processing executive. They just told me, yes, you continue to challenge us, Virginia. So the challenge I'd like to put forward to all of you on this platform is that, sure, good, you can be an HR executive, you can be a corporate affairs executive, but hey, if you are a mining engineer and you are on this platform, I'm calling on you and I'm speaking particularly to you, with that technical skill. Go to the operation. Go change the world. Create the path for younger generations that are coming. We are creating the path. There is no justification for this underrepresentation within our technical side of our mining operations. Own your development, put your best foot forward by performing, challenge your business around the stereotypes, ensure that challenge them on areas that improves the environment for women to flourish, challenge them on the blockages that are there in the business to bring that change. Challenge, create, remove the barriers in your business. One other thing very critical for us, is to continue to create the sisterhood where we come together as women and support one another. I really liked coming into this platform because it just makes me feel so much better if I can come and speak to women or hear other women. I mean, the previous speakers were really, sharing really very great insights in terms of, what is happening in Tanzania, as an example. So that helps you to be more resilient because our environment requires that. Requires you to be resilient your way and to make the change in your company. And yeah, that's how we will change the mining sector in South Africa and around the globe. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Virginia, for that very extensive presentation. We do have a question for you, but please do respond to the question on the chat section. We're going to move very swiftly, but yes, Virginia, you're absolutely right. It's important for us to be courageous, to step forward, and thank you for challenging us as participants to pave the way forward as well, especially when it comes to women in technical fields in mining. And so we're going to move briskly along to Dr. Armand Bam. He's the senior lecturer at Stellenbosch Business School, and he'll be speaking on the representation of women across mining roles from field to the boardroom. And Dr. Bam is an expert in social innovation and inclusion and turning research into organizational strategies for lasting representation. So we're actually moving to Dr. Melba? Okay. So I gave the wrong person. It's all right. That happens. It's okay, everyone. So we're going to move on to Dr. Melba Wasuna, who'll be speaking to us just now. Dr. Melba, are you here? I introduced another person, but it's okay. We can get it. You can go on. You can make a presentation. It's all right. It's all right.
Along with the
Please
punches.
just do. You know what? I think it's brilliant because now you get to introduce yourself and I don't need to say anything about you. So you can introduce yourself for the sake of time. You don't need to be humble. Go ahead and flex on us and let us know how incredible you are, Dr. Wasuna. I could read your bio. I see it here, but I think you're an extremely accomplished individual and I'm really excited to hear your presentation. You have 10 minutes and really looking forward to you. Over to you, Dr. Melba.
Asante Kwano. Good afternoon from Kenya. How's everyone doing? Thanks to the participants for logging in and to the organizers of this wonderful conference and to the previous panelists. I have listened keenly and I am all the more enriched from the words of wisdom and discussion so far. I am Melba. I work at Base Titanium. Here in Kenya. Base Titanium is a subsidiary of Energy Fuels that is based in the United States. And my given topic is women as professionals in mining, challenges and strategies for success, which I think segues quite nicely from the previous presentation. And so without much further ado, allow me to jump in. Next slide. So basically, this presentation will take you through just in general, what are some of the challenges we are facing as women in mining? What are some of the structural barriers that are there? How do we reframe the narrative? And I will then share some of my personal thoughts and guidance towards especially young female professionals. Next slide. Okay, so this is where I guess I do my introduction. I have a career as a woman in mining that spans academia, spans civil society, a short stint in government, and more recently in the last close to a decade now in the mining, direct in the mining sector, where I have worked in external affairs at Base Titanium, and more recently holding the fort as general manager of external affairs. And it's been a rather interesting journey having to work across a variety of stakeholders, both from the technical stuff that we've had but also from the more social, environmental aspects of mining is what I basically touch on. And it's been a tremendous journey. In fact, when I did my doctorate way back when in Australia, the dream then I did my doctorate in extractors and human rights. I thought I was coming back to the continent, strapping on my boots, putting on my shorts, and we are going to the Congo, and we are going to go and, let's sort human rights. Very passionate. It's always been a passion of mine, human rights, all the way from when I was a small girl. And on that year when we came back to Kenya, oil had just been struck in the country, and mining was ramping up. So I decided to pack my shorts and those dreams and work within the Kenyan context. Next. So how do we understand some of these challenges faced by women? If we just go by numbers alone, always a good place to start because it gives you an idea of what we are facing. We're a very small fraction in the workforce, anywhere between 8 and 15% are the typical numbers that are being thrown around. You'll see that in Australia, it's 16% of the mining workforce are women, USA only 14%, Canada 15%, South Africa 12%, and Sub-Saharan Africa, when we count in the ASM factor, then we're looking at 30 to 50% of the workforce being women. Part of the questions that we ask is, does it matter? And my answer is yes, it absolutely does. Because guess what? When we are sending our children, both boys and girls, to school to go and learn, I don't know about others, but I'm pretty sure that we are telling them, be the best that you can be. And it is incumbent upon us, those who found others already breaking glass ceilings, that we continue to the best that we can to expand this number so that the daughters that are being born and being told get into STEM also find an opportunity for them, and that they are going to be welcome, they are going to be safe in this mining sector, and that they're competent and that they can perform and that they can excel. And so that's why we look at the numbers, because globally, our gender numbers are sort of on a par, but then you come to mining, a drop. And so we always start with the numbers. Next. The other thing that we like to point out is now we disaggregate the data a little bit. Over and above, is it male and female working? It's also what kind of jobs do they have? So in the mining companies, you will find a lot of women in mostly administrative roles, HR, IT, external affairs, and the like. And very few actually end up going to the more technical roles. And just by how the industry is constituted, folks that have more technical roles tend to get paid higher. So what does that mean in real time? It means that we start seeing a gender pay gap. Okay, and so that is why we're encouraging a lot of young women to really take on these courses in STEM and sign up for engineering roles, for geological jobs, for more technical jobs in the mining industry, and we then hope that we'll begin seeing that this gender pay gap is reducing. Next. why are we facing some of these issues? I'm sure this has been talked about in some shape or form, but so I will not get into too much detail. But number one is when we look at structural barriers, outdated perceptions. I remember first starting out one of the mining areas that I went to, and that was back in 2013. And the ladies there, when I asked them, why aren't you mining out there? There's gemstones, it's such a rich area, and the opportunity was so big. And their response was, how can I mine? Go back home all dirty. And my husband also comes home at the same time. What kind of woman would I be? And this was a serious conversation. Fast forward 10 years later, we thank God for the Constitution, which has really opened up spaces for women. Oh, these women are now part and parcel together with the men and mining. So their policy changes made a difference into how women regard themselves. But also we are seeing more and more women really just saying, listen, it's about myself, it's about growth, it's about my family. And some of these more traditional norms that they're being, women are supposed to be just kept and clean and all of that, they're challenging them and they're seeing the fruits. Another issue that I've come across is this very limited mentorship and professional support. In my cohort of, I'm trying to avoid the word age group, of professionals, it is incredibly difficult to find mentors, not so much that they're not available, but the ones that are available, both male and female, you almost feel that they're so overwhelmed by so many requests. And as a fellow professional, you want to be empathetic as well. And while, you'll go for mentorship opportunities, you do realize that it's such a small crowd to access this mentorship support. And so we found that this limited access to mentorship, to sponsorship, can really regress a woman's professional growth. And it's something that I know as women we have talked about, and we must carry each other and all of that. But the truth of the matter is, I think a lot of us, at the end of the day, we know there are some famous names we know out there. We know Sheila Kama, we know Zenzi, we know, and a few, of course, some of the panelists here, we know them. But they can't serve everybody as much as they mean well. So I've always wanted to challenge us as women at whatever level that you're in. It doesn't matter whether you're a household name or not. Mentor where you can, who you can, at whatever level. Is the only way we all get up. But that's a serious challenge. Another challenge is on occupational health and safety concerns. This is it's something that we cannot wish away, and it's not just a question of large-scale mining. It's across, including artisanal and small-scale mining. Women go through a lot of physical challenges. It is a very deep and painful subject for women to talk about who've gone through the untolds. And so it's something that I feel detracts especially younger women from coming in, because the stories that we have had are harrowing. And more we are seeing more mining companies reporting on what's happening. I think Rio Tinto came out with a report about 2-3 years ago, which sent shockwaves across the mining sector. And since then, we are seeing more and more companies looking at these gender-specific risks and how to address them within their companies. And finally, this barrier I feel very particular about, work-life balance and family responsibilities. When you come in, I think one of the other presenters was talking about how you're told to get a thick skin. And this is how the workplace must be. You cannot show your emotions. If you need to work 14 hours a day, you do that. And that's well and good. I think for the most part, as long as that has been made very clear, that was very transparent from the word go and you signed up to it, well and good. It doesn't mean, though, that there are no consequences there to be suffered, especially if you look at the gender perspective. It means that something has got to give. It means that family time has got to be compromised. It means that sometimes, because you're the primary caregiver as a woman, and I'm not saying it's all the cases, sometimes you have men being primary caregivers, but I'm just talking about generally. You have to step away and attend that baseball game or soccer game and still come back and do what you need to do. And I think here we have, especially young women who these days are talking about YOLO, you know, you live only once. And, you know, they are, especially Gen Z, are really all about, I'm claiming my space and my mental health. I think this is a conversation that the mining sector needs to have so that we incorporate the next generation of young women. Next. So the way I like to look at this is, rather than look at it through the challenges, those are important, I want to look at this as, let's reframe the narrative. As we are talking about gender, you know, we can always look at this from the negative perspective, and yes, sometimes it is warranted. But perhaps in order to get more and more partners in this journey of getting those numbers up, in this journey of making sure that our sisters get the quality jobs, let's reframe the narrative. Let's talk about why it is absolutely critical that women are part and parcel of the team going forward. Why recruiters and departments in HR should be, giving justifications as to why a certain person was picked and not the other person. And all of this really, for me, when I look at it, is we're reframing the narrative to fit merit, but that merit needs to also be gender sensitive. Otherwise, we will only have a narrative that will be gender blind. So let's reframe the narrative that looks at, from an economic standpoint, this is the value add that women have got to give. In my team, community engagement, the reflections and perspectives of women when they're out from the field back into the work that I then put together and fill into from a policy perspective is absolutely invaluable. Okay. Yes, the male members also have their viewpoints, but I always note the difference and the kind of the kind of things that they are more aware of, that they know this would potentially be an even bigger issue if it's not addressed now, as opposed to, you know, a month from now. I found that having a gender balanced team has really put up the levels of production, and that's just one of the many benefits. Next. So how have we done things at Base Titanium? I need to do a shameless plug here. We are now Energy Fuels, and this is our gender story. We are blessed because from the very beginning, we had very intentional leadership about women. They were not shy about it. The question came to, how do we get them in? Because the women that were taking the STEM courses were very few and far in between. But our managers, our general managers, all the way to corporate level, everybody was very intentional about, let's work with as many women as possible. And those efforts have paid off over the years. We, at some point, were at 31%. In terms of the gender composition. If you look at global statistics, they're hovering at 10% or so, or less than 15%, as I've told you. Our graduate trainees that come in, at least 25% were women. We used to hover at 5%, and this grew. Our community development officers, 30% of them, and leading major infrastructure projects that benefit community. We have women managers, also over 30%, leading the geology departments, HR, IT, external affairs. We are getting teams that are led by women, and we are seeing the benefits for it. Next slide. That was the internal story at Base. I'm trying to keep it short. There's a lot more I could say. And so find me off camera for further explanations. Nationally, we truly believe it's our responsibility to walk the journey with national level stakeholders at the same time. We are especially intertwined with the Association of Women in Extractives in Kenya, who have been able to implement a variety of programs in financial literacy, health and safety, GBV, and the like. So these are one way in which we participate at the national level. Next. At the community level, through our scholarship programs, nearly half of the recipients are female. We work with women entrepreneurs, and just recently actually concluded a 1,100 women training program on entrepreneurship at the community level, and it's been great. Next. I'm concluding. What have I found to be strategies at work? I wanted to take this more from a personal perspective than from a purely corporate, because, you know, we've had quite a bit already on that. I think one of the best strategies I found is that you need to find allies. You need to find allies wherever you are. They can be men, they can be women. I know from recent research that we conducted on gender matters, on how it feels to be a woman at base, that a significant proportion of the women say that if it was not for a fellow woman who was seen to be very empathetic towards others, saying, "Don't give up, be strong," they would have dropped out, because they just could not cope or integrate. And so find yourself an ally, I think, is very important. I myself, I have an accountability partner in this professional growth, and it has really been good to have a mirror whom you can bounce off ideas, but also conversations are confidential. Secondly, collaborate beyond the mind. Join a IDWIM association, such as this one. Join AWIC, join AWIMA. All these are women who are already, incredibly linked up across the globe and within certain countries. And joining those associations, for me, I found would provide a lot of young women with networking opportunities and mentorship opportunities. Thirdly, upskill, reskill as may be needed. In Kenya, if I may say, one of the things that I noticed that is needed, I don't know if there's young women in the forum, but especially for technical women, when we go out for stakeholder engagements, you can find a lot of folks such as myself with law degrees and with business degrees and the like, but women with technical backgrounds who are able to then transcribe that technicality into layman's language. There is such a need for you. Okay, both working with government, with policymakers, within companies. That is such a skill set that I think should be grown. And so, upskill, reskill as may be needed, and don't shy away from any technological advancements because that's where the world is going. Be adaptable. I call this just be ready to pivot. Sometimes part of what holds us back as women is I went and I got a 4-year degree in geology, and this is what my parents paid for. And you stick there, and yet the opportunities are calling from a different perspective. So I always talk to young people and tell them, that may be well and good, and that season may come. But for now, if this is the low-hanging fruit, please grab it with both hands. And as long as you excel, you give it your all these things eventually will work for you good. And finally, I've spoken this about before, mostly because I tend to mentor a lot of young women on work-life balance. Really be intentional about your boundaries. I remember when I had my first baby, I used to show up with her for all meetings in the crib and not pick up calls after 2 p.m. But I was also up at 2 a.m. every single day to work. But I was very, very intentional about access and when we could work, when I was available on emails and all of that. And that helped me a lot with work-life balance. Story for another day. Next. And that's it. So I look at all these gender matters for women in the professional space, that we are moving slowly and surely from, getting critical masses of people from participation to decision-making spots, so that when you're sitting in that seat, you are able to make really impactful decisions that benefit both men and women. And you keep on punching that glass ceiling at your level and for as far as you can, because we are all beneficiaries of women who did the most before us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mawa. I think one thing that we also need to, I'd love for you to make a study on, is how women as accomplished as yourself don't flex on us and tell us how incredible they are. I was hoping she would tell you, as she introduces herself, that she is an award-winning leader. All right, yes, so that she's an award-winning leader in governance and public affairs and so on. And you, Dr. Melba, were named 100 Global Inspirational Women in Mining. That alone is incredible. I'd love for you to make a study on yourself and to tell us why, and figure out why you didn't tell us how incredible you are and the work you've done, and also the contribution you've made in the mining sector. So thank you so much. And the work you do is absolutely incredible. And now we're actually moving on to Dr. Ahmed. And I've already given you a brief bio and that he's a senior lecturer at Stellenbosch Business School. Dr. Ahmed, I mentioned you earlier, so give us a good reason why I was so quick to mention you earlier. I'm really excited about your presentation. So take it away.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation to speak today and share some thoughts. And we're here to talk about representation from the field to the boardroom. But I want to do a bit more than share numbers. I actually want to provoke you and also myself, because polite conversations haven't really moved the needle fast enough. And so today I'll offer 5 provocations or 5 uncomfortable truths that I hope will challenge us all to rethink what representation really means in mining. So I'll move on to the first provocation and first slide. And I want to start off with this provocation to say that mining must stop being only about extraction. And so if your mine sustains a business but not a community, I believe you're part of the problem. And so too often mining towns are defined by mine dumps, tailings dams, abandoned shafts, symbols of what was taken, not what was left behind. But imagine that the mine instead sits at the heart of a thriving community. Schools, clinics, thriving local businesses, safe streets. But why is this a gender issue? Because when communities thrive, women thrive. Women gain access to jobs, training, and leadership pathways, not just inside the mine fence, but also across the local economy. And so if our representation conversation starts and ends inside corporate boardrooms, we miss the bigger picture. And so the real question is, are we building communities where women can see themselves in mining from the artisan to the CEO? And then beyond that, what would our mining strategies actually look like if community prosperity, not commodity output, was the first line on the annual report? I'll move to the second provocation, and this revolves around breaking the myth of physical dominance. And so the era of excluding women because of physical demands is long over. It's technology and not the testosterone that really drives modern mining. And so for decades, women were kept out of the underground mining under the guise of protection, that the work was too physically demanding. Today, remote operated drills, drones, automated trucks, and precision engineering have changed the rules. You don't need brute strength to run an operation. What you do require is the skill, data literacy, and the ability to solve problems. Yet we find that women still make up less than 20% of the global mining workforce. And so the myth persists, and it shows up in the hiring decisions, in promotion pathways, and in how equipment is designed. I believe technology has leveled the playing field. The only thing left holding women back is the industry's unwillingness to let go of its outdated ideas. And so the question is, if technology has leveled the playing field, what excuse remains for the absence of women from the pit to the boardroom? My third provocation speaks to enablers without action, which just represent corporate PR. I believe that policies that aren't enforced are just decorative wallpaper in boardrooms. So every year I read glossy sustainability reports, and they're filled with the right words: gender responsiveness, gender responsive recruitment, pay equity, anti-harassment policies. But without real enforcement, these commitments are meaningless. In South Africa, women hold around 15% of mining jobs, many in support roles, not in technical or leadership position. And that's despite the policies promising inclusion. And the question for us should be why? Because when we are able to measure all grades to the gram, we rarely measure gender outcomes with the same precision and rigor. And so enablers for change must be measurable. We must be able to understand who was hired, who was promoted, Who stayed beyond the first 5 years? And if we can't track this, we can't address these issues appropriately. And so the question is, are your gender equity policies living documents that actually change lives? Or are they these lifeless PDFs sitting on your server somewhere in the cloud? On to my fourth provocation, and I believe we need more hummingbirds here. And I want to tell the story, one that Professor Wangari Maathai, the late Kenyan Nobel Peace Laureate, loved to tell. And it's about the hummingbird. Where this fire breaks out in a forest, the flames are roaring, and all the animals run. They end up gathering at a distance, watching their home burn, all except one, the hummingbird. And this tiny bird flew to the stream, picked up a single drop of water in a peak, and dropped it on the fire, again and again and again. And the other animals stood back and really mocked her, asking her, "What do you think you're doing?" And the reply was simple: "I'm doing the best that I can." And so when you look at a role model in society, Professor Maathai didn't just tell the story, I believe she lived it. And her message was clear. You don't have to be big to make a difference. You just have to start. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And I think for women in mining, the fire can be really fierce. It's the blaze of gender stereotypes that say mining is too hard or too dangerous. It's the heat of exclusion from decision-making tables. It's also the smoke of unsafe workplaces, unequal pay, and career paths that are blocked not by the lack of talent, but really by outdated thinking. And so you may feel small compared to the scale of this industry. You may at times feel overwhelmed by the entrenched systems, the global economic pressures, the deep-rooted traditions that still today frame mining as a man's world. But I believe you have two choices. The first is you either stand back with the animals, or the second is that you return with your drop. And I believe the truth is, in mining as in life, the fire will not be put out by one drop alone, but by every drop that really matters. And I think in every woman who steps forward and adds to a force that cannot be ignored. So I want to encourage everyone to be that hummingbird. Even in the dust, the heat, and the noise, you've got to keep flying to the stream. Because when the history of mining is rewritten, it should tell of women who didn't just break rocks, but instead broke the barriers. My fifth provocation is to speak to men. And I believe men have to move from this notion of allyship towards stewardship. And I don't think that allyship is enough. If you hold power, you have a duty to dismantle the barriers you benefit from. And so we will not close the gender gap in mining without men in leadership stepping up, not as allies, but I believe as stewards. So allyship is symbolic, while I believe stewardship is structural. It's about changing the hiring criteria, setting the gender targets, defending equity even when it is unpopular. And so with resource scarcity and global competition intensifying, I see mining's license to operate is going to depend on more than just environmental compliance. It's going to depend on your social legitimacy. And so if equity isn't part of your sustainability strategy, I think you're building on shaky ground. And the question there is, if the mining sector faces this resource scarce future, what legacy will you leave? Is it one of preservation and equity, or extraction and exclusion? And then finally, this is just a call to action to everybody. I've shared these five provocations, but they all come down to, I believe, one truth. And that is that we can't afford to keep talking about representation as if it's an HR issue. I believe it's a survival issue. Mining must reimagine itself as a force for community building. I believe we have to dismantle the outdated myths about who belongs in mining. We must enforce the enablers we already know work, And we must amplify the hummingbirds in our midst. And finally, we have to demand that men with power act as stewards and not only as spectators. So when you leave this room, I hope you can commit at least to this one act today that will move women in mining forward, that we will take action to sponsor her, to hire her, to promote her, to protect her, because if you're not changing the system, I believe you're upholding it. And finally, the future of mining and the future of gender equity will ultimately be built by those who choose to act rather than stand still. And let us make sure that we are those people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed, for a very informative and challenging presentation. And I think for all of us and anyone who is in a leadership position, the question now is what metric can you put in your dashboards to ensure that there is diversity? And what does that look like? Like Dr. Ahmed said, it's not an HR compliance thing when we talk about inclusion. It's an imperative part of growth, inclusive growth, and the way to move forward. And so now we have our closing remarks from Maria and from IDWIM, rather. So Maria, you're welcome to come on, let's spotlight you and give us a wonderful closing remark.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I truly appreciate everyone. I think all the discussions were super interesting. And well, my name is Maria Jose Rodriguez. I am the co-leader of the IDWIM 2025 Volunteers Committee. Our mission for IDWIM 2025 was to make International Day of Women in Mining a global celebration throughout the world, but also throughout the year. The purpose of our year-long campaign is to acknowledge and learn about worldwide efforts towards a more inclusive industry. Today, we learn important lessons from both a regional and global perspective as we share similar challenges, but always driven by the same motivation of improvement. I sincerely congratulate the IDWIM Africa Committee for your amazing effort in bringing this campaign to life and for putting together this great event with such remarkable presentations and topics of discussion. A massive thank you for the people behind the scenes as well for their enormous support, Claudia Fernandez, Ian and David, and congratulations again on this great event. You did great. So thank you so much. Have a great evening, night, good morning, and thank you again. And please keep posted on future events that we'll continue to organize. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you all to our audience who managed to stick along and our speakers for their incredible presentations. Unfortunately, due to the interest of time, we will not be taking any Q&As, but please, we do encourage you to continue to have this dialogue on social media or send emails. I know most of the speakers here are active on LinkedIn. And the only thing I do implore is that may the voices that have been heard today and even in the comment section continue to resonate in boardrooms, in everyday spaces. We need more people having this dialogue, and we need more action-oriented discussions as well. And thank you so much to the team for having me as well. It's been incredible, and I've learned a whole lot, and thank you for laughing at my jokes. I do think I'm funny sometimes, so I appreciate that. And obviously also to our speakers and our sponsors as well. Thank you all so much for being part of this incredible movement. We're looking forward to the future. We know that we say that the future is female, but I think we can confidently say that it's no longer the future. We say that the female is now. It's bad grammar, but yes, the female is now. We are active. We are moving forward. The global landscape is changing. And we'd love for everyone to turn on their cameras if possible. We'd love to take a nice screenshot of this awesome session. So can everyone turn on their cameras and see if we can have a nice little screenshot situation. Wonderful. Thank you all. And closing with the wonderful words of Dr. Ahmed, mining doesn't require testosterone. it requires technology. I think that is the statement I'm leaving with. Thank you all so much. We look forward to continuing this dialogue in the future, and goodbye.